Here's why Johntay Cook is the number one breakout candidate for Syracuse football next season.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Of course, we are always free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on today's show, we are going over 8 different players, 4 on offense, 4 on defense, that could break out for Syracuse football this upcoming season. They do have a really young roster. They have a lot of unproven talent. So fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, there are a lot of different breakout candidates for Syracuse football next season, more so than there were last season. Last season, I think it was a more veteran team, obviously with the amount of players that graduated and went on to the NFL. This roster, it's young, and there are a lot of potential players that could break out for Syracuse in 2025. All that and more coming up here on today's show. But before we get to everything, this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Let's start by talking about the breakout candidates for Syracuse football's offense next season and circle back to the very, very beginning of this podcast, right? That brief few second introduction. The number one breakout candidate, I think, overall on this list, and he plays on offense, of course, is Johntay Cook. 6 foot, 185-pound wide receiver. He is a spring transfer portal addition from Texas and Washington. Johntay Cook, his stats don't necessarily wow you. I'll admit that. I guess that's kind of the point of being a breakout candidate, is that your stats don't look so great right now, but they could look amazing this upcoming season because he has amassed less than 300 total receiving yards in his first 2 collegiate seasons. Again, that's not a lot. In fact, the exact number is 273 to be exact here. However, he was a 5-star recruit in 2023, and he has a new chance to succeed here at Syracuse. He has got elite speed. He is an electric talent. When he's got a sliver of open space, he can break a tackle and take it to the house. Johntay Cook is an electric talent. Once he gets up to speed with the playbook and he can build chemistry with his quarterback, which we'll talk about later on here in the show, actually coming up. We don't necessarily know who it's going to be, but once he can develop chemistry, learn the offense, learn the playbook, all that fun stuff, I expect that Johntay Cook is going to be one of the top 2 wide receivers on the team, which will give him plenty of opportunity to have a breakout 3rd season in college football. He will be a redshirt sophomore this upcoming season. The other receiver that will be next to him, well, Johntay Cook, I guess, can play outside or inside, but you get the idea. The other top receiver for Syracuse football this upcoming season is Daryl Gill. I thought about putting Daryl Gill as a breakout candidate, but to be honest with you, I think that's a little bit cheating because he broke out last year. He had 570 receiving yards last season, which may not sound like a whole lot, but again, 5th option, 570 receiving yards. In the year before that, he had 60 receiving yards. So he got a whole lot better in year 2 compared to year 1. So that's why I didn't put Daryl Gill there. Johntay Cook, in my opinion, is the number one breakout candidate for Syracuse football this upcoming season. If he can break out, he could completely change this offense. You would have 2 burners on the offense with him and Daryl Gill, and he would greatly help out Syracuse's quarterback. Now, speaking of Syracuse's quarterback, who's it going to be? I guess that's the number one question of the offseason. You got Steve Angeli, the spring transfer from Notre Dame, and you got Rickie Collins, the fall transfer from LSU. Steve Angeli's got 80 career passing attempts. That's right, 80. That's it. Rickie Collins has 7 career passing attempts. But both quarterbacks got talent. They're coming from powerhouse programs. They were both 4-star recruits in high school. Angeli seems to be the more prototypical quarterback, whereas a guy like Rickie Collins is more of your athletic type quarterback. I do think it's possible that during a game that both quarterbacks end up seeing the field. Now, I'm not suggesting a Tom Landry swap quarterbacks every single play type of thing like he used to do. You should actually go look that up. It was in the late 60s or early 70s when he did that with Roger Staubach and Craig Morton. He would rotate them during the game, play in, play out. I'm not suggesting that with Syracuse's quarterbacks, Steve Angeli and Rickie Collins, but what I am saying is that they do different things. So let's say Steve Angeli wins the job. Then you could still use Rickie Collins on the offense in wildcat scenarios because you know he can really throw the ball. You know that he's a Division I quarterback. So it could work out that way. Regardless, one of Steve Angeli or Rickie Collins is a breakout candidate for Syracuse football this upcoming season. And to be honest with you, one of them's going to have to break out if Syracuse wants to make a bowl. It's a very tough schedule, and I don't see Syracuse making a bowl if they don't get at least serviceable quarterback play. But they're probably going to need more than serviceable quarterback play this upcoming season to make a bowl with that schedule. Still plenty to discuss here on this episode of Locked On Syracuse, going over breakout candidates for this team. Coming up, we will round out the offense breakout candidates and then transition to the defense breakout candidates. That's all coming up next here on Locked On Syracuse. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. And managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. This is Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and let's continue this conversation of Syracuse football breakout candidates for the 2025 college football season. The first two, Johntay Cook, and then one of Steve Angeli or Rickie Collins at quarterback, since we don't know who Syracuse's starting quarterback will be officially this upcoming season. So it's got to be one of those two, hopefully. Now, let's continue with the offense. And Yasin Willis is a breakout candidate for Syracuse this upcoming season. A 6'1", 225-pound running back. He's going to be a true sophomore. Last season, Willis was the backup to LaQuint Allen, who never really seemed to leave the field because LaQuint Allen could do a little bit of everything on the offense. He can run between the tackles, outside the tackles. You need him in short yardage. He can go get that 1 yard. He was money down by the goal line. And also, he was an elite pass-catching running back, one of the best pass-catching running backs a year ago in college football. But he's gone. He left early for the NFL draft. Good for him. We wish him nothing but the best. And Syracuse, though, is going to have to replace LaQuint Allen and his production. So hopefully it can be a guy like Yasin Willis. Last year, he appeared in 11 games. He had 36 carries for 130 yards. That's not exactly great because he only averaged 3.61 yards per carry. Ideally, you want to average at least 4 yards per carry, but he was a true freshman. And he also had 8 catches for 26 yards. So he did show off a little bit of a receiving ability, which is important for running backs. And he was a Rivals 4-star recruit. Now, if I recall correctly, if I did my research correctly, which hopefully I did, that was the only major recruiting services that gave him a 4-star. That being said, he was at least a high-end 3-star on all of them, and of course, a 4-star recruit on Rivals. He's got talent, and he's got the opportunity. LaQuint Allen, of course, is gone. Will Nixon is behind him. He's a veteran. He's coming off a foot injury. And behind Yasin Willis and Will Nixon is young running back Jaden Hart, who was behind the two of them a year ago. So Yasin Willis, as Syracuse's starting running back this upcoming season, or should be Syracuse's starting running back, is a prime breakout candidate for Syracuse football. He's not LaQuint Allen because they don't play the same way, but it kind of reminds me of LaQuint Allen when he was taking over for Sean Tucker, how there's just this hole at running back and there is just this opportunity right there in place for someone to go out and get it. I think it could be Yasin Willis. And finally, rounding out the offense, Syracuse football added a lot of offensive linemen in the transfer portal. Remember, there was that 2 or 3 day stretch where they added, I think, more offensive linemen than days. They might have added 4 offensive linemen 3 days, if I remember correctly. Sorry, my memory is a little foggy. That was back in late April, maybe early May. But one of them was Cam Pringle, a 6'8", 335-pound offensive tackle. I guess he can play on the inside as well. He was a spring transfer portal addition from South Carolina. And he redshirted this past season at South Carolina, which no shame in redshirting as a true freshman. I do not hold that against anyone in college football. I don't care if you're the number 1 overall recruit in the country. Sometimes guys don't see the field right away, and they can still very easily turn out to be amazing players. So hopefully that can be a guy like Cam Pringle. But before he redshirted at South Carolina, he was a consensus 4-star recruit in the 2024 recruiting cycle. In fact, ESPN had him ranked as high as a top 50 overall recruit in the nation. We don't know exactly how Syracuse's offensive line is going to shake out because, again, they added so many players. They lost guys, they added guys, they retained some guys. Austin Collins, Naquil Beatrand in the fall. Zach Rice was added. Unfortunately, Mark Petrie, I believe he's got a knee injury, so he's going to be out the season entirely. That's unfortunate, of course. I think a guy like Cam Pringle, though, given his pedigree and the fact that he is so young, that he redshirted last year, he's got a good chance to break out. And I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section below. When you look at Syracuse's offensive line, who do you think is going to break out? Who stands out to you? To me, it's Cam Pringle from South Carolina. That is it for the offense breakout candidates. And of course, there's plenty more, but I only named 4 on offense and 4 on defense. In fact, maybe I'll do a part 2 of this at some point later on in the offseason. We'll go over some different young players that could break out that I might have missed on this one. A guy like Emmanuel Ross, off the top of my head, a 4-star recruit as well in the 2024 recruiting cycle. I did not mention him as a breakout candidate, even though he is a breakout candidate, right? So comment your thoughts in the comment section below, your breakout candidates for Syracuse on offense this upcoming season, because right now we are going to transition to defense breakout candidates. And we'll go over one of them right now. And then on the final segment, we'll go over the final 3 breakout candidates. The first one, and feel free to let me know if this is cheating or not, but I'm going with a true freshman. In fact, there's going to be 2 true freshmen here on this defense breakout candidate list. Demetres Samuel Jr. You guys might have heard of him. 6'1", 190-pound corner, a consensus 4-star recruit in the 2025 recruiting class. He is actually, if you look it up, he's one of Syracuse's highest rated commits in the past 2 decades. It's not hyperbole. You can go look it up for yourself. Top 200 overall player, I believe, in the country. He can also play wide receiver. So I do think there will be times during next season where Demetres Samuel is playing both ways. I don't think it's going to be the extent of Travis Hunter when he was at Colorado, where he literally did not come off the field. But I do think it's possible that he plays both ways at times during this season. But let's really talk about him as a corner and how he can break out there. He's probably going to see significant playing time at that position right away because Syracuse lost 3 of its top corners from a year ago. Clarence Lewis graduated, went on to be an undrafted free agent, I think for the Tennessee Titans. I've said it before. Marcellus Barnes, transfer portal. Jaden Bellamy, transfer portal. It's on the table that Demetres Samuel is the number 1 corner for Syracuse this upcoming season, and it's highly likely that he'll at least be in Syracuse's top 2. The other 2 top corners, in my opinion, we'll talk about one of them in the next segment, and the other one is Georgia defensive back Chris Peel, who is also not necessarily on this list, but he could break out for Syracuse this upcoming season. All right, so that's where we'll leave off for now. Coming up, we will discuss further the breakout candidates on Syracuse football's defense. That's coming up next on Locked On Syracuse. We left off this podcast talking about how Demetres Samuel Jr., a consensus 4-star recruit in 2025, a true freshman for this upcoming season, how he is a breakout candidate for Syracuse, given the fact that he's going to have an opportunity to be Syracuse's number 1 corner, or at the very least, a starting corner for Syracuse this upcoming season. Perhaps the other starting corner for Syracuse in 2025 will be Davian Kerr, a 6', 185-pound corner, a returning true sophomore for this upcoming season. He appeared in 8 games a year ago, and he started the final 4 of them. So that's what's leading me to believe that he is likely going to be a starting corner for Syracuse this upcoming season. His first start actually came on the road against Cal, where he picked up an interception. So that was pretty cool. His stats for that, or for this season, 14 tackles and that 1 interception that I just mentioned. He's definitely going to, or he is probably going to be a starting corner this upcoming season. I do want to bring your attention to Georgia defensive back Chris Peel, who I mentioned in the last segment. Chris Peel, I believe, was a 2023 4-star recruit at Georgia. Didn't really see the field a whole lot while with the Bulldogs, but he's also got an opportunity, in my opinion, to be a starting corner for Syracuse football. Really, it's 3 guys for 2 spots, in my opinion. That's the way I look at Syracuse's depth chart right now. You got Demetres Samuel Jr., Davian Kerr, and Chris Peel. There are, of course, other corners, but that's, I think, the top 3 for now. Of course, the Orange still have a couple of more roster spots available, and if they decide, they could look to maybe add another corner, which could change the breakout candidate list simply because it would change the playing time. But Syracuse's top 3 corners from a year ago, they're gone. And so they're going to need 3 new ones to step up, and not a lot of them are proven. So we'll find out how Syracuse's cornerback room will be this upcoming season. Next up, another true freshman, Antoine Delorier, a 6'1", 235-pound linebacker. Like Samuel, he's a true freshman, right? But he is a consensus 3-star recruit. He does not necessarily have the same pedigree as a guy like Demetres Samuel Jr. For now, at least, when I look at Syracuse's interior linebackers, the top guys appear to be, if Syracuse is playing a game later today or tomorrow, the starters would be veterans Derek McDonald and Anwar Sparrow. And behind those two players, you got James Hurd, who I think is in the mix as well. However, when I look at those three guys, right, Derek McDonald, Anwar Sparrow, James Hurd, none of those three, and this isn't meant to be disrespectful, but none of those three really jump out to me as highly impactful players, right? They're not necessarily like Marlo Wax. Yep, that's all ACC if he's on the field. Or Michael Jones, who was also at one point one of the better linebackers in the ACC before he graduated. In fact, at one point, Michael Jones and Marlo Wax were on the field at the same time, and Syracuse had one of the better linebacking units in the ACC. They don't have that this year. That means there's opportunity. And where there's opportunity is where you can find a breakout candidate. And to me, Antoine Delorier is going to get a chance. Now, it could start off slow in terms of playing time, but over the course of the season, I could see his role going up and up and up if he starts playing well in limited playing time. And finally, you got a pair of edge rushers, David Omopariola and KingJoseph Edwards. Let's start off with David O. He is a returning redshirt sophomore. He appeared in 12 games last season, and he made one start. That was in the Holiday Bowl against Washington State. His stats for the year, they don't wow you, but I guess that's the point of a breakout candidate. 12 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, and a half sack. He should see the field more this upcoming season. That will give him a chance to have a much better 2025 statistically compared to 2024. And then you got KingJoseph Edwards, who is a fan favorite amongst many here with Syracuse, a 4-star recruit in the 2024 recruiting cycle. He had that 3-sack game against Holy Cross, which I know it's Holy Cross, but hey, it came in one quarter. I thought it was pretty impressive, and he was only a true freshman at the time. Hopefully one of these they're not true anything, right? Hopefully one of these edge rushers breaks out for Syracuse this upcoming season, because that'll definitely help Syracuse's front, and they're going up against some pretty good quarterbacks this upcoming year. So they're going to probably need one of these guys, David Omopariola or KingJoseph Edwards, to step up in a big way for Syracuse this upcoming season. They are both prime candidates to break out on Syracuse's defense for next season. So the whole defense list, Demetres Samuel Jr., Davian Kerr, Antoine Delorier, and then one of David Omopariola or KingJoseph Edwards. I did mention at the top of the podcast that we would go over 8 players. We ended up going more than that, but hey, I guess bonus content for you all, right? A little bit more than 8 players we mentioned here on the podcast, but there really aren't a lot of rules with it. So, hey, we went over a lot of breakout candidates, and honestly, there could be a part 2 to this podcast. I don't know when exactly I would do it, but just keep that in mind in the near future. In fact, if you want it, comment in the comment section below if you would want another breakout candidate list for Syracuse this upcoming season. Now, as far as what is coming up in the near future here on Locked On Syracuse, I believe the next podcast will do Syracuse basketball breakout candidates. And then more podcasts in the future, football and basketball recruiting updates over the course of the summer. And then you got football position previews as well over the offseason. So that's what's coming up in the near future here on Locked On Syracuse. Thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen today. For your second listen, you can check out the Locked On Portal Show with football recruiting expert Brian Smith, who's got the latest rumors and signings each and every day. You can be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the Portal Podcast on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Folks, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this podcast, be sure to hit that like button. If you really enjoy the podcast, be sure to hit subscribe. Tell all your friends about Locked On Syracuse, and I will see you all again soon.